Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review. No, I don't have a review at all, and that guy needs a new freaking fan. Or a belt or something or another out there. Anyways, today I got a disassembly for you of this little guy. This is the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron. Really interesting piece. It's closely related to the Viator, which is this guy here. But this guy, the Viator is a slip joint. The Neutron is a... It's a liner lock, and but you can see here very similar profiles, etc. I'll talk about that more in the review. But yeah, so anyways, let's pop this guy open here, see what's going on. One of the interesting things about this particular knife is that you can swap the scales very readily, and I'll show you kind of as a part of this disassembly how to go about doing that. But for the moment, let's just get the scales off of here. To start with, if you want to remove the scales, it's pretty easy. What you do is you pop these two screws off here. And then immediately, once you've popped those two screws off, this part lifts off. That's right, the pivot is in this bigger central hole here. The pivot is not holding the scales captive. And then on the other side, if you wanted to pop the other side off, you pop off these three. And this is a Torx T6 bit here, and I have a video on knife disassembly tools. But to get this side off, you just pop these three screws for the clip. You pop these two screws. There's another one hiding under here. And then you can lift the back side off as well. And then, boom, case closed. All you need to do is put lay a new scale down on there and retighten those screws, and only those screws. That's all you need. That's kind of nice, actually. I think that's cool, because well, mostly it just makes this guy really easy to take down. And you can swap the scales without ever affecting the action or anything like that. You don't need to go further than this unless the knife is running poorly. And so that's cool. But I am going to go ahead and go further than this because, well, that's kind of what I do here. That's my shtick, so we're going to do that. One thing to highlight is that I've just moved from T6 to a T8 bit, and then unfortunately, the TRM, and their explanation, as I recall, was something along the lines of a Phillips head you can turn much more readily, you can put more torque on than a Torx bit. Which, okay, they're the knife makers, I'll trust them. But nevertheless, that's, as a result, though, we have these three Phillips head screw bits in the past, or in the back here. That's a cultural metaphor right there. Backwards equals past. For those of you who don't have that metaphor, my deepest apologies. But anyways, I have pulled these guys out. One thing to note is that these backspacer pieces, standoffs that is, are they're loose in there. They're not shouldered or anything. That's kind of, it's a low-level gripe. It's something if I could snap my fingers and have those guys be shouldered so they'd stay in position, I would. But it's not also a deal-breaker. It's not like, oh my God, I'm so pissed right now. How dare you, TRM? How dare you, good sir? That's not where I'm at with it. But, it's definitely something you're going to want to keep in mind. All right. Now I just want to lift this guy off here. Come on. There we go. I was just wiggling it back and forth, not using a lot of force. Generally, you don't want to use a lot of force for these things. What we see here is the construction is really straightforward. We've got these three back spaces here that go with those three screws, and then over here we just have a pair of liners. And then inside the liners, some phosphor bronze washers. Works fine. No issues with this construction whatsoever. But just had a moment of terror that I didn't turn on the video. Oh, I'm not a brilliant man, but today I happen to be, well, maybe not brilliant, but I wasn't that stupid, so that's nice. So I'll go ahead and clean some things up here. Pop the pivot out on the other side. And wipe things down. Looks like a steel detent ball. No problem. Detent on this knife is not super hard, but it's not like problematically soft either. It's fine, works, no objections there. And then phosphor bronze washes are great. And take a look at the finish on this blade. It's really nicely done. It's mirrory, and that just makes it very smooth. And this is a really smooth knife for the price. Well, frankly, it's a really smooth knife, price aside. It's not the case that you pay more for smoothness, although very often that's something you get when you pay more. But, it's not like the way that you make a knife smooth is by grinding up $100 bills and, coating the metal with that. It's, not the case, in case you were worried. So, anyways, what the hell am I on about, guys? It's been a long little while here. I actually got this guy. This has the distinction of being the very first piece of gear that I picked up after my most recent move here out through the California. So, Yeah, I've been using this guy actually a fair amount because this guy showed up right as I was moving in. And so, you know, breaking down boxes, things like that. So it's gotten maybe a little bit more use and love than other knives on my channel generally do for review, which is great. I wish I could always do that, but alas, you know, I'm a man of limited temporal resources. If I could exist simultaneously in many parallel universes, each one carrying a different knife, then I could do, you know, 36 parallel universes times, you know, different knives. You know, I could, you know, do a bunch of reviews every month with, you know, a full month to carry. But alas, God, where am I going, guys? What am I on today? Either way, this is a knife that I've been able to carry a fair amount without relying on multiple multiverses. Multiple multiverses? I suppose if there are many of them, they're already universes. Yeah, just stop listening to me. Just focus on this. I'm using 10-weight nano oil here, by the way, which is, you know, fine, well and good. Works well with bearings, works well with washes. If you're just going to do one lubrication, generally I'd recommend this, or if you can't get it or it's prohibitively expensive in your area, Daiwa Real Oil, Daiwa, I don't freaking know how you say it. Either way, it's also pretty solid, but yeah, that's what I'm using here. And really, like I said, it's a very straightforward little liner lock here. There's not a whole lot to highlight, to point out, etc. So what we're going to go ahead and do is put things back together. Now, one thing that is frustrating about having this guy be unshouldered is that, and also having these screws go directly into the metal on the other side there, is that these are a little bit of a pain to line up there. One approach would be to put everything in there and then hope for the best, alignment-wise. And, you know, the other approach is actually to put these individual Phillips heady guys into here and then lower them down onto these guys and kind of spear these individual back spaces. I think that's the approach I'm going to try right now. But you can also flip it over and then drop the back spaces onto there and go from there. But then you're trying to, yeah, there's not a great way to do it. Like I said, not a big deal, but it's a deal. And actually, because of the angle here, I'm going to use liquid Loctite rather than my Loctite on a stick, which you might have seen me just pull out a second ago, but it's still the blue 242 stuff. So it works fine. Boom, boom, boom. You say, wayo, wayo. 80s music reference? No? Not doing anything? All right, I tried. Now I'm just going to kind of drop these guys into position here with the hope that I'm going to spear the back spaces and be able to drop everything on. Did I do it? Holy crap, I did it. All righty. So I'm going to go ahead and just loosely tighten these guys. Loosely tighten. That's a thing. Wow, I need to stop doing disassemblies because I'm loosely tightening things and talking about multiverse theory and whatnot. As you can tell, it's been a surreal little while. But anyways, so I've got those loosely tightened. Now I'm going to go ahead and loosely tighten the pivot here. And the goal here is, again, just to drop everything into position, get everything sort of set. Use a little bit of Loctite here. And they are actually shipping this guy with the purple Loctite, a little sample of it. And actually, that's right, I remember they specifically recommend that instead of just applying the Loctite to the screw, you imply it, yeah, I'm implying Loctite. Not actually using it, but I'm implying it very strongly. I'm applying some Loctite to the inside of the threads here. Because the Viator actually had some issues with the pivot screw backing out a little bit. I don't know whether they managed to fix that in this guy or not, but what I've just done is I'm using this tool here as an oiler. Not like Euler's theorem, but like oiler, something you use to apply oil. And so I've got a little globule of it on there, and I'm just going to kind of run it along the inside of the threading here, and that'll apply it nicely. Now what I'll do is screw this in, and because, remember, the pivot is independent of the scales, I can just do this, and I can tighten this down fully, and everything works out okay. Maybe not fully, but, you know, I can tighten that down. Now I'll go back here, and I'll tighten, 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 tighten this guy like a moon of Jupiter. Is Titan the moon of Jupiter or Saturn? It's embarrassing. Either way, and we have a jet going by. Looks like an F-18 Hornet. Either way, actually not too far from the Miramar Air Force Base, which is where Top Gun was set. So next time I'm doing an IKBS disassembly and I enter the danger zone, well, there you go. Okay, now I just got to kind of get everything dialed in tension-wise. This is a little too tight right now. So I'm going to go ahead and back it off a little bit. This is unfortunately a free spinning pivot, which is another one of those things I definitely would want to see fixed. But here we go. So I'm just trying to get, God, that thing is smooth. I'm trying to get it such that centering is good to go. There's zero blade play. Is there play? Maybe the little tiniest bit of play. So I'm going to tighten this up a little bit more here. Quick action. Tighten it up a little more. Good action. Smooth, centered. Oh, yeah. Beautiful. Alrighty, so we're all set here. Did I tighten the back screws completely? I think I did, but I want to make sure. Most of the time, you're not going to need to do that. And that's the nice part of this being on Foster Bronze, is it's pretty low maintenance generally. But yeah. And so now that I've got this in here, I can swap on the scales here, or put in whatever scales I'd like. I'll go back to my T6 for that. Just drop this guy on here. I like the carbon fiber scales on this guy a lot. I actually do have another set of scales for it, the Neutron-themed ones. It should be great if I'm ever, visiting a, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory or something like that. Go to Los Alamos, then bring my Neutron. Not that they are lacking for neutrons. But anyways, physics joke? No? All right. I'm very particular about my physics jokes. Okay. Come on. There we go. So, but nevertheless, I'm kind of like the carbon fiber. It's a nice shade, and frankly, I like it. Even though at first I was a little disappointed by seeing it was more of a matte finish. CF, I'm turning out to like it a little bit more than the glossy on the Viator here. Just feels a little better in the hand. But anyways, oh yeah. Perfect tension. Dead freaking center. And just smooth. There you go. So anyways, there you go. That is the DRM Neutron. I hope you found this interesting, that you enjoyed some physics jokes, some multiverse discussions, and that you have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everybody.